Yadzayinim and Aleph, and it's about halfway through.
Okay.
Maybe 60% of the way through.
Okay.
It's on the medium lines. There's 5 lines at the end of the medium line. So the story was about this fellow who was put into a cherem by Rabbi Yehuda because there were certain rumors around him. We said the rumors were about znus or Eish or something, and they could never really pin it down. But he put him on, but he didn't know what to do, and they put him on cherem. And unfortunately, the poor fellow died on cherem because Rabbi Yehuda died, and he went to his deathbed. And Rabbi Yehuda said, "I'm going to go to Olam Haba because I'm not going to sell out to even someone who like you." And then they came back after he passed away, and they said, if he's not here, and he didn't let you out of cherem, then there's nobody here, and so forth and so on. And mentioned the story that he went to Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya, and Rabbi Yehuda Nasiya asked Rabbi Ami to go look into it and find a way to be mater the cherem. And Rav Shmuel Bar Nachmani came that day, and he never came, and he said, if ma shivcha shalbeis Rebbe lo nagu chachamim kalos losh b'nidu yeha shalosh shanim, if when the shivcha beis Rebbe put someone in cherem, they kept it for 3 years. Rabbi Yehuda chavireinu, Rabbi Yehuda did so alachas kama v'kama, and therefore this person cannot come out of cherem, and unfortunately he met an ignoble end. So, having mentioned that, the Gemara wants to know what is the story of Shivcha Shel Beis Rebbe. Okay, Yud Zayin and Aleph, and it's about halfway through Shivcha Shel Beis Rebbe. The last word on the line is Shivcha Shel. The first one, next line is Beis Rebbe. So Shivcha Shel Beis Rebbe Maihi. What was the story? So there's a lot of stories about the Shivcha Shel Beis Rebbe and how wise she was. And I guess if you hang out in the house of Rebbe, eventually you'll learn what's going on.
There's a Yiddish expression, I forget how it goes. But a servant in the house of the rabbi can paskin a shayla.
Correct.
I forget how it goes after remembering.
So this is the Shivcha Shel Beis Rebbe. In other words, she was there the whole time. Well, I don't know if she was Jewish or not Jewish. She called the Shivcha, she probably was not Jewish, but it means that she was somehow a slave. So a slave or a servant. Okay, whatever it was, she was not a person of class, and yet her cherem was significant. So what was the story? The Amta of Beis Rebbe, the Amma, which is another word for Shivcha of Beis Rebbe, Chazisi Elu Gavra, she saw this person. This is interesting. It was nothing about Rebbe. This fellow, the Halimachi Labnei Hagadol. He was hitting his son who was over Bar Mitzvah. Okay? So, and there's really, according to the Torah, be very careful in the modern milieu how you said this, according to the Tanakh and according to Yadus, there's nothing wrong with corporeal punishment.
But not for somebody else.
But really, because Nama Psukim and Mishlei talk about hitting a child. Right? Well, spare the rod and spoil the child is not from our boys, I don't think. But I'm saying the same idea. Yeah. But however, a son, an adult child, correct? That would be, it's called lifnei iver, because he'll see what's going on and bolt, right? Remember, part of adolescence is a child is trying to break away from the house and create their own identity. That's the tug and draw of what teenagers are. They're living in the house, they're not old enough to leave, they're not mature enough to make decisions properly, and at the same time their maturation process is trying to allow them to make these decisions. So if you push them too hard, and anyone who has a teenager can appreciate it, if you push a teenager too hard, you can push them over.
I thought the problem was pushing too hard maybe it's going to hit you back, and then it's going to be over on
maybe that's too good.
I remember hearing that.
Malachic point of view, probably. Okay, that's good. Okay.
But what does mature here mean?
Bar mitzvah.
Older than bar mitzvah.
Yeah, older than bar mitzvah.
Plus, the fact that he's bar mitzvah already puts him in a different category, so he's a shtickle person.
Correct. Now, you could argue that that's true for 10, 11, 12, right? But today's society will tell you it's even true for 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
This is how it is. I know someone whose kid fell and got bruised up. They were afraid to take him to the hospital, to ER, because it says, who knows?
Kidding? Absolutely.
Right. So.
Uncorroborated.
Correct. That is the society we live in. So. Anyways, look, we were kids. We got hit by the Rebbes. We got hit at home. That's just what the society was different features. Okay, so at any rate, why? Because Mishum the Kavod Mishum Lefnei Velo Sitei Mechshol. He was going to come to the kid to transgress, as Mr. Bendel pointed out. I think that's the correct shot. If you hit the kid will hit you back, and that of course will be Lo Saked as Makei Aviv Imo Mosimas.
Yeah, but that has to draw blood. But
still, okay. Drawing blood doesn't have to draw blood. Just draw blood. Getting black and blue is also drawing blood. The Tanya v'lifnei v'lositei mechshol b'makal of no hagadol hakos medaber. So the Brisa makes it a very clear example. So this was the case where the Shivcha of Beis Rebbe put someone in cherem because of this. Okay, this is not a heretical statement. This is not something in disrespect to Rebbe. This was something completely extraneous, but she understood the severity where this could lead. Okay, so that cherem apparently, we don't have this in the story, will remain in effect for 3 years until the rabbis felt that they could allow this person to come out of cherem.
So we're assuming here, it says she saw that,
right.
But does it say that she put him in cherem, or that's the assumption?
That's the story. In other words,
well, which part I'm saying?
That part of the story is not there. They're saying, what's the case? This is the case. What's the case where she put him in cherem? The case is the case.
I see, okay.
So no, you're assuming they had, the fact that you say, well, it doesn't say it here. It doesn't say it here because that was the tradition.
I got it.
Oh,
okay.
She was the one who actually put him in the cherem?
She put him in cherem.
She says, what's the story about this?
She put him in cherem.
Does this have some ramification in terms of whether or not a woman can actually paskin?
That's not a psak, it's a cherem. The question really is, who can put who in cherem? Do you have the right to put someone else in cherem? In other words, forget the Shivcha Beis Rebbe. Can you come along and say, you're in cherem, you're in cherem? And the assumption we worked with is no, it had to be based in, or we learned last week a scholar who felt that he was offended, right? But somewhere there's scholarship that's going on. So I guess the assumption is that she had some kind of understanding because she was Shivcha Beis Rebbe. All I'm saying is that's the hyperbole of this example. Shivcha Beis Rebbe, you say it's a Shivcha doing this. Well, what kind of significance is it? Forget it. Who are you to make these kind of statements? Nonetheless, the rabbis allowed it to stick for 3 years. I guess you'd have to say they did some kind of research, and they found this wasn't the first time the guy hit his son, and there were other issues, and they felt that was okay. Once you put him in cherem, let's kind of
I think there's dramatic implications about the role of women here.
I agree.
Political. The rabbis
right.
No, but it's about the role of women.
Correct. It's fine.
And I just had another thought about
without this, you would never have known that a woman can do it.
So,
especially not who knows if she's even Jewish.
Right.
We assume she's not Jewish.
Correct. We assume she's not Jewish, and we assume she's a shivcha, which means she's not even a free man.
Right.
Freedman. Right.
Right.
So, anyways.
And Lifnei Ver, I just had another thought because I didn't see. What do we say he's going to run away? That's like Lifnei Ver, but to me, what it might mean, and I don't know, is Lifnei Ver is when you tell somebody something that's bad advice. Let's use that word in a general sense. You mislead them. Maybe you're misleading this kid to think that you're allowed to do this kind of thing, that you're allowed to smack adult children or whatever. So maybe that's the embarrassing. You're teaching them a thing that's a wrong thing to teach them. Just a thought. Because to me that fits in better than the fact he's going to run away, because I'm not sure what he run away has to do with the bear. But anyway.
So what's the difference with that?
That's a separate issue altogether. This woman decided if you hit, you're killing.
Right, so Rabbi Hanano says exactly what Mr. Bendel said. ולפני עיוור לא סתם מכשול על המכה בנו הגדול שכיוון שהוא גדול חוזר גם הוא מכה אביו ומכה וזה ונמצא כי אביו גורם לו והכשילו.
So that's
it's not I know it's not yours.
I heard this before.
Okay.
But it's both in a way saying that his father's the
correct. Okay, at any rate, so that's one story. The next story. So this is all about stories here about, cherems and so forth. And this actually is a very interesting story, because the story we just read shows that it looks like anybody can put anybody in cherem. Right?
Only if you happen to be educated somehow.
Only if there's some validity to it. Right? Now, you assume that putting someone in cherem because he did this well, it doesn't look like it's cheremable, but obviously it was. But here's a case where something was not worthy of being put in cherem. Reish Lakish have a minter pardesa. Reish Lakish was watching a pardes. He had a job as a watchman. It's fascinating. I don't know, nothing else to do. Well, they had to make a living, these guys. This is Reish Lakish, by the way.
The
highwayman. So, question whether it's before he became the highwayman or after he became Baal Tshuva. Okay.
If he's in charge of guarding it, you hope it's...
Reish Lakish, the original Baal Tshuva, by the way. He was a scholar, went off the derech and came back. Okay. So, no, really. So also he's watching the pardes. Also gavra v'kalcha to ene. So some guy comes along and starts eating from the figs.
But you're allowed if you're just walking through, aren't you?
No, it was obviously a good
meal.
You're
allowed to take grain if you're walking through or something.
No, you can only take if you're working in the field.
Working, that goes without saying.
This guy's he's just he's tapping into it. He's grabbing fiatanim.
You can't just take it if you're just walking through.
Right. They can't. It's Gnevi, stealing. So Rama Bay Kala. So Reish Lakish, one second, let's go back to this. So Reish Lakish calls out. Says, stop, thief, stop what you're doing. And the guy didn't listen. He keeps eating the teinim. So Reish Lakish says, and he's a scholar, Lahavehu Gaver B'Shamta. Says, this person should be in a cherem. Means who gathered this guy? You're I'm putting you in a cherem. Wait, not finished. So Amalei. So the guy who's stealing the teinim says, Adraba, lahavia who gathered b'shamta. You, this guy, Reish Lakish, should be in a cherem. Oh, so he explains. He says, Imamo nischayafti lacha, neither mischayafti lacha. If I stole money, maybe it's even his orchard, right? He may be watching his orchard. If I stole money from you. Yeah. Right? Am I obligated to be in a cherem? Right? No, cherem is for certain things. Cherem is either for heresy, for not towing the line of what Jewish belief is, or where you can't collect. You can't collect based upon a debt that Basin says is collectible.
Yeah, but here,
like take me to court. You think I owe you money? There's due process.
Right.
So Asla Bey Medrash. So they came to the base Medrash. They obviously got wrapped in a tussle. This guy, he says Yornachem, back and forth. So Amalei. So in the base Medrash, or Amrulei, in the base Medrash, they said to Reish Lakish and this guy, Shalom Nidoi, Shalcha Eino Nidoi. What you put him in the cherem is nothing. What he put you in the cherem is a real cherem. Now, no.
Presumably Reish Lakish.
So who?
Reish Lakish is in the cherem and the Ganav is not.
Reish Lakish is in the wrong.
Reish Lakish is in the wrong. You did something wrong by putting an innocent Jew in cherem, so you deserve to be put in cherem. In other words,
but he didn't put him in cherem.
He did.
No, but he
tried to.
He tried to.
He says you're in a cherem.
Yeah, but he's not in the cherem just because he said so.
Yes, he is.
So is he? But
that's the idea about the idea of a cherem is
this rule that he's not.
No. So they come to the base medrash. Base medrash says what you said has no validity. You put him in cherem. Your cherem is worthless.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve to be in a cherem. You had no right to put him in a cherem. You can't put someone in a cherem randomly if it doesn't work.
So just because he put him in cherem doesn't mean...
You can't say, I'm putting you in a cherem because you went through a red light.
So tell me there's something wrong, but Reish Lakish is not in cherem.
So, but the other guy said, I'm putting you in a cherem. So
who cares what he says? He's not in the cherem.
Well, obviously, the base medrash said they did.
It doesn't make sense.
Well, but you see the power, and the power of cherem is fairly significant. The power of putting someone in cherem, in certain cases, if Chazal... You see two things. First, we see that anyone could do this. The second thing... welcome. You have a Gemara? We're good? Okay. We moved rooms.
Yes,
Did you notice?
I got here already.
Okay. So ordinary quick people in cherem, provided the base invalidates it. Normally you hear about a cherem as being put by a basin. Right. So we took one level. We said, well, it's not a basin. It's going to be a scholar, tzubur rabbanan. Now we're saying basically anybody can do it, provided it's validated. The case of Shivshcho Shabes Rebbe, the story is an unusual one. But what's the story? She says the guy's in cherem for hitting his son, and then you have to assume the basin validated it and said the cherem works for 3 years. She didn't say 3 years.
No.
But they were the ones to say, well, you're at least 3 years, you have to be in cherem, then we'll look at you. Which, by the way, is a fascinating story, because it means that these are 3 probably very formative years for his son. Right? What does the son think about the father? What kind of amends can be made? What happens to these teenage years where the father's been ostracized in the community? That's the difficult part about the story.
It would seem to be some other punishment besides putting the father in cherem. There must be some other way of dealing with it besides putting the father for.
Well,
What could they do with that?
they could. So the answer is the alternative to this is probably lashes, without being too costly.
That's better than 3 years of cherem.
Why, what's the over?
What's the over? I don't know. Malchus from you have to say Malchus martyrs.
What about if they very lot is not a negative mitzvah? Not a lot, I say?
It is a negative mitzvah, so that's what he's saying.
Yeah.
Is it yeah?
Isn't it? I think
Yeah.
it is.
So, but cherem seems to be. Look, once again, as we've seen, there are different levels of cherem. Maybe this was the lighter level of cherem. I don't know. Maybe the guy didn't want to change. Maybe when they brought this guy in because of hitting his son, he says, "No, I'm gonna hit my son. I'm gonna hit him again. Boom! I didn't do anything wrong. Who are you to tell me?" And he was recalcitrant.
What did they teach the son?
Well, that's the question.
That's the question that I asked. There's a human element that spills over into the rest of the family. I agree.
Look, we're going to get the father, but we leave the son alone. I mean, there's no, they don't say
No,
anything about.
well, I don't know. The father still worked. The father still provided, but the father was so ostracized from the community.
Anyways, Chachamim say that Reish Lakish is in Chayrim.
Right. Wait. So at this point in the story of Reish Lakish, here's the turn of events. Reish Lakish, the person who was stealing the Tainim is not in Chayrim.
Right.
We have to assume that, by the way, the Reish Lakish in the court of law collected the value of the stolen Tainim, or maybe not. Maybe there weren't witnesses, only 8 echad. There's an 8 echad, maybe he swore, I don't know. But that was resolved, and the fact that Reish Lakish used this inappropriate power to kind of beat down and be abusive to someone by putting him in Chayrim was reason for him to be put in Chayrim. Now, we can't leave Reish Lakish in Chayrim, can we?
I was going to say, how long did it last?
So,
No, but why don't we give him a chance to repent? Say, look, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have put him in cherem.
okay,
Why isn't that good enough?
so the answer is, the person, once again, this goes back to the story of Rabbi Yehuda, the person who puts you in Chayrim has, according to some shittos, we don't pass it like this if I remember correctly, but the person who puts you in has got to take you out. If the BAYT had Rabbi A, B, and C, according to Shita, would have to be called in to undo the vow, undo the Chayrim. And if Rabbi C is gone, that's what we learned the Gemara once, Rabbi C is gone, then the guy is stuck. Now, once again, I believe, because I looked at it then, that halachically speaking, you can replace someone else. But according to what the story looks like, this looks like a little complicated.
It also sounds like Reish Lakish, as a Talmud Chacham, has a special kind of power.
But it looks like power can't be abused.
Yeah,
That's the part of it. See, for us, the whole idea of putting someone in Chayrim sounds like ridiculous. The only time you see a Chayrim and Shamta Nidui is when you say Hataras Nadarim. Right? Kol Neder, Kol Neder, V'chol Chayrim, V'chol Shamta, V'chol Lisa, V'chol all those things. Right? All of these things, by the way, are like vows. And that's by the other part. When a person puts someone in a Shamta, it's like saying this is a vow. So, to get out of a vow, only the vow applies to someone else. It's a vow on me, a vow on someone else. So at any rate, they come to the base measures. So what are we going to do? So Reish Lakish says, what am I going to do? What he did to you is your nidoi, and what you put him in is not a nidoi. Maita kante. What are you going to do? How do you do? How do you get out of it? How do you be misak in this? Zil legabe delishvalach. Go find the guy who put you in Chayrim, that he should take you out of Chayrim. Right? Obviously, this looks like it wasn't the biggest deal in the world. Okay? You put him in Chayrim, he put you in Chayrim, so fine, you work it out. Right? Shake on it. So he said, Lo yadanale. I don't know who it is. I can't identify him. This was some guy who showed up, random guy running through the town, grabbing dates. I don't know who he is. I can't find him. So Amruleh, they said, go find the Nasi, and he will permit you can undo your Chayrim. The Tanya that we have a Brisa Nidu ve'ino yodeh mi niduhu yelech etel Nasi v'yatze lo niduyav. Okay, there's a catch-all that the Nasi who everyone is subservient to, right? Even if you did not know the Nasi, but he was the Rosh for all Klal Yisrael. He is responsible to everybody. Everybody is underneath him. He can remove any type of chayrim that is put on anyone else.
Today, when we don't have a nasi,
don't put people in chayrim. The answer is, if you put a person in chayrim, what does it mean? What does it mean?
Nothing today.
Today means nothing because your society is an open society. It's a society. The society we live in today is a society by choice, right? And there's no sensuality. There's no sensuality, right? Every community is separate by itself. It's easy to travel from community to community. There is no central rabbi or leader over everybody, right? It doesn't exist. It does not exist.
So what happened in the olden days? In the olden days, you put in a harem, you couldn't get an aliyah.
So that's right. So in the olden days, it was harder to travel. You were stuck. Yeah. And every community in every country had their own hierarchy of rabbanim.
Right. So the person was put in harem, then they couldn't get an aliyah in shul.
You couldn't, depending on the severity, you couldn't do business with him. You couldn't talk to him.
Oh, okay.
That hasn't been since the Middle Ages.
Right.
Well, that's in the good old days.
That isn't entirely so, because we had a situation, and then you remember, we had a situation here in the shul a few years ago.
You did?
It was a star syrup.
For a get.
Not for a get. It was a commercial matter.
Oh, I don't know.
And what happened? Without mentioning names.
See how good it worked? Nobody knows about it.
So the base then issued the star syrup, and notices were posted around the shul that the star syrup, this guy wasn't entitled to aliyahs and so on and so forth.
Okay, and he lived happily ever after, or he caved in.
Eventually the matter was resolved and the star was lifted.
Okay. Well.
I remember it very distinctly. Sure. I was
then.
Well, I was peripherally involved in trying to get the matter resolved.
So at any rate, sometimes you see these listed when there's a get outstanding, right?
Jewish press.
But once again, it has only limited validity.
Right.
What do you guys say? So you can't get an aliyah. So you won't get an aliyah.
Limited effective. Limited, as you say, move to the next.
Move to Boca.
Right. It's like what do you get for your membership in the shul? Be very careful, right? What do you get for your membership in the shul?
You get the right to remain silent.
You get the right to an aliyah. You get the right to daven. Okay, those are that's what goes and karka. And karka.
Yeah, but you don't have to be a member of the shul to daven.
To daven for the Amud.
To get an aliyah.
There's sometimes people come in there from different shuls. It's not the camp. I'm saying if you really want to know, that's what you're getting. That's what you get for being a chaver of the shul. Right, and karka, of course. And people belong to the shul because voluntarily they want to support the shul. They believe in the importance of the kehillah. But you know what the reality is? You say to someone you're out, they're out. For Haraya, there are different shuls in Thornhill now, right? People left for a lot of reasons, and there's a whole rainbow of different organizations here. Nothing wrong. So all I'm saying is that. And by the way, parenthetically, 905 is much more centrally organized as a Jewish community than 416. 416, you go down to Lawrence and Bathurst, every street corner, right? Sure. There's another shtibel.
But here you think it's more?
Sure there is. Sure it is. Sure, of course it is.
6 Colwells.
But still, but the Rav of the BAYT is still the Modas for the community, and it's still accepted. It's definitely more centralized. But it's not going to be a reason for a person necessarily to stay in the shul because he needs to get an aliyah. Go somewhere else and get an aliyah. All I'm saying is the idea of a cherem doesn't work the way it used to do when this was a closed knit when it was a closed knit community, and you had nowhere else to go, and that's all you could do, right? So therefore, you don't see cherem anymore.
So one person can do it still. Isn't the answer?
So the answer is yes, but what does it mean?
But why
one person can do it, but it has to get validity.
You're saying only if they're
why not make it 3? Like you need 3.
So when three is a base and it's done. When one person does it, if you're going to get up and start saying you're nechem, people are going to laugh at you. It obviously the cherem of the shivcha of Beis Rebbe only had validity because Chazal said, she knows what she's doing, and we're going to kind of sign underneath it, so to speak.
So you need the signature now.
So you didn't need a signature; you need a validating structure of a Beis Din. And the same thing. This guy in Rish Lakish, they come. You got to read the story. They must have come in like wrapped in a kind of arm wrestle. You took my figs. You put me in chem. And they come to the Beis Din, the Beis Medrash, and they said, Rish Lakish, guess what? You're in bigger trouble than he is. Surprise.
So how did the great Reish Lakish
Fall into this?
lose this halachic battle with
Because
with a nobody?
I don't know this. Look, I don't know, but it seems to me simple. As a scholar, he understood this was a way to stop things. In other words, if you're a bulvan, right, you do fisticuffs. You pick up your knuckles and you punch in the face. So Reish Lakish, this may have been the Reish Lakish before he became the highwayman, right? What kind of weapons does he have? He has the weapons that he uses as a scholar, which was cherem. So he says to the guy, "I'll put you in cherem." Oh, I don't know. People lose sense of something, right?
If he was a highwayman, you should have beat him up. He doesn't have to just knock him out.
Right.
Before he did his training.
Right. It's like saying, you see a kid do something something very silly, and you say, "Oh, you're expelled from the school," right? You don't really. The educator never means that really. Just in a fit of losing composure, people say things. I think that's what Reish Lakish said. And the guy says back to him, "No, but you're a cherem because you misabused. You abused me in terms of saying cherem." Okay.
They say when a person's own interests are involved, he doesn't always act
Right.
judicially and
Correct. Right. Okay. Amar I'm sorry, I skipped the line.
Yeah. No, that's...
Yes, so find the Nazi V'yatil Chaniduya. Amar Rav Huna. Be'usha skina, in Usha they made takana skino, Av based in Shasarach. If an Av based in does something wrong, right, messes up. Ein menadin moso, you don't put him in the neder right away. This is like the story from the guy before. They weren't quite sure what to do that Surah Mirabanan. But Ela Omer Lo, they say to him, Hachbein b'shev b'veisecha. Take it slow down, right? Be heavy, so to speak, and sit back, sit in your house. There's a pasuk taken from Malachim.
But is this like the other thing we learned there? What was it called?
This is like the insurance company says on the first accident we're going to forgive your record.
No, but is this more like Nazifa? Not really. Not saying.
No, it's not even. It's like saying because you've had such a perfect driving record on the first at fault, we're going to forgive it.
Okay.
So because you are a Av based in and you've had a perfect psak record where you made a mistake, we're going to say, you know what, cool it for a bit.
Okay.
But chazar v'sarach, but if it happens again, okay. Minad nosam neikil Hashem. Okay, so then so according to this opinion, according to Rav Huna, the Takon and Usha was only for the first time. To tell the guy to kind of, and if you think it's not a punishment, and Av Basin was a public figure who's got to be out of the public eye, sometimes as big a punishment as anything else. So
it's a very senior position of
Exactly.
Of course.
It was the senior position.
Right. So now the question, what does it mean? What does Sarach? Sarach could be the example of Reish Lakish who said to the guy, "You're on cherem." Don't think all these, evil thoughts. What does it mean, Sarach? What's he doing? He's out there looting. He's out there, I don't know, doing things of questionable, morals and ethics.
Sricha could be from the root word sricha,
Did some run.
Which means it stinks. It
Right.
smells.
Did some run. Yes, he messed up. He rotted out. In other words, he did something smelly. Did something wrong. But the first time around, according to Inusha, who said this, Rav Huna says it. They said the first time, okay, we'll forgive you. Second time, right? Then we're going to put you in cherem. Uplig the Reish Lakish. Now look who's being quoted here. The same Reish Lakish who was quoted before. This argues Reish Lakish. Dam Reish Lakish. Talmud Chacham Shesarach Ein Menadim Oso B'Farhesia. You don't give him. You don't put him in cherem Farhesia. Shenemar. It says v'choshalta hayom v'choshal gam navi imcha laila. So this is Hosea talking about the sins of the Jewish people. You're going to sin today, and the Navi will sin also with you at night. Now, what does that mean? So it means if they're equating, by the way, the Navi with a scholar, right? The Navi is like the scholar, and if he sins, kisehu kalayla, you got to cover it up. That's
like the night covers things, probably, right?
Right, that like the night covers things. Okay, and people won't know what's going on.
This is
So therefore, don't.
He's based on Beis Din. I think it was Jock say.
Correct. So therefore, don't embarrass the person in public. Doesn't mean you can't punish him.
But this isn't everybody. This is just this guy. This is the Beis Din.
Yeah, it is the Beis Din.
The Talmud Chacham. Rish Lakish talking about Talmud Chacham.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now the question: what is the connection to this statement to the event that happened to Rish Lakish himself? Okay. I don't know. Okay. All right. Marzutra. Marzutra is a story about a Rabbi and a student. Marzutra Chasida, ki mechayev tzur ben rabbanon shamta, when a scholar had to be put into a cherem, like we had tzur ben rabbanon, the same term we had last week, right? The fellow who was under suspicion. So it means tzur ben rabbanon is like a scholar, but we don't know who he is, like a second-rate scholar. It's not the top of the base measures. One of the big guys in the base measures. So when he's supposed to be in a shamta, but Bereisha mashmis nafshe. So Marzutra himself, Marzutra Chasida would put himself in cherem. V'hadar mashmis l'didei. So then he would put the student in cherem, so he could still stay connected to the student. In other words, if he put the student in cherem, what he's trying to say is you got to work a little compassion in here. So if this was the student that he wanted to have an influence upon, so Tosa says actually he puts himself in cherem because he wants to show tsar. Okay, he wanted to show that he's also in tsar, and then Tosa also says it's possible because if he puts himself in cherem, he'll remember that he's got to get out of cherem, and then he'll remember to put to take the student out of cherem as well. So first he puts himself in cherem, then he puts the student in cherem. When he comes to his place where he's staying, Ushpize means his home, his guest house. So he takes himself out of cherem, or I guess he finds someone to take him out of cherem, and then v'hadar I'm sorry, I got backwards. First takes himself out of cherem, and then he takes the Talmud out of cherem himself. So in other words, the cherem that he put him under was a short-lived cherem, and he did this either according to Tosas because he wanted to show he was in pain because of doing it, or to remember to take the other guy out, or Rashi says because he wanted to give kavod, wanted to recognize the kavod that is given to a tzur merabanan. So therefore he wasn't the only guy in cherem. Marzutra went together in cherem with him. Okay, it's for a one-day cherem.
So he did have that power to do it.
Correct. Now it looks like he can do this. It's like a self-imposed cherem and an auto exemption out of the cherem. So the Gemara says, "I'm Rav Gittel, I'm a Rav, Talmud Chacham, and Adalatzmo made for Latzmo." Okay, so Talmud Chacham can do that. Yeah, Talmud Chacham can put himself in cherem, and Talmud Chacham can take himself out of cherem. These are very bold statements because it looks like they can be abused.
We also wonder what the meaning truly of cherem is, in the sense that if you decide to withdraw from contact, in other words, you do all the things that a cherem would be. You don't have to put yourself in a cherem. You just do it, right? But I guess they still meant technically, legally. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Does he have to let people know that he's a cherem?
Yeah, good question.
I don't know. I guess they tried to minimize it. Okay. Now, so I mentioned before about giving malchus. Here's where the Gemara comes up about that. Amrav Papa, Teisele, it should be like me, or I guess good for me that I never had to put a Talmud Chacham into Shamta, into a Cherem. So what did I do to punish them? If there was a case where Tzur B'Rabbanan, a scholar, was worthy of being put, should be put into a cherem, hechi of it, what did I do? Kihad b'marava, what did I do? Mimne anegida Tzur B'Rabbanan, v'lo mimne ashamta. They would, negida is giving malchus. They would give malchus to him, and malchus was a better solution or a more preferable solution than putting a person in cherem. I don't really understand it. Malchus is A, painful, and B, it's got to be a more greater public humiliation.
How many 40 or 39?
Well, maybe they didn't do it before. Probably maybe just one whip.
You could give any amount.
Yeah,
I suppose so. Any amount.
Yeah, I'm saying here they probably just give him one shot.
Right. So okay, now we're coming, so to speak, towards the end of this. My shamta. What does the word shamta mean? Again, no, cherem is actually, cherem talks about, it's found in the Tanakh, about not using the spoil. It's a called cherem Lashem.
Yeah, there the cherem has.
So cherem means it's set aside, it's designated, or it's off limits. That's what cherem comes from.
That's where it comes from, but it means much more serious things than tore off and
correct. But I'm saying, but that's the etymology of the word cherem.
Right. Harem. That's a woman's harem. Put them aside. I think so. I think so.
Okay, maybe. Nidoy, I don't know, but this comes from word shamta. So shamta is an unusual term. What does it mean? So they says Amarav shamta comes from shamisa. There is like death. Or Shmuel Omar shmama yiyeh. It should be desolation. Same ideas. These don't necessarily mean this is the real etymological words. This is like, a drash, a remez, drashes on these words. But no, they're saying that's why we're using that word, because it really has these other implications. And if you think this is so light, says the Gemara, Mahanya Bey Kitachaya Betanura, and this helps, means it's as strong as the schmaltz that you smear the oven with. I don't know exactly what they did, but I guess they wanted to either smooth out the oven or to equalize how the burning, how the temperature was in the oven. So they would coat the oven wall with fat, kosher fat, okay. And that fat, the schmaltz, the grease was always staining the wall. You never got rid of it. In other words, it always bled into the clay wall, and it was I don't say forever and ever. It's klicheres, but it stayed. So in other words, no matter how much you used, you got to go back and remember. Do anybody remember before ovens were self-clean? Okay. Right. Okay. Before they came up with self-clean ovens, they came up with something called continuous clean ovens. Anyone remember that?
Yeah.
Continuous clean really meant continuously dirty, because a continuously clean was a more porous kind of substance than all the schmaltz and all the stains actually were, and it was speckled, so you couldn't see it. Went in and you couldn't see them. That's what continuous clean was. It wasn't the same as self-clean, which was of course a very high temperature.
Why they put the grease on the oven?
So I don't know why they put the grease on the oven, but this apparently was common, but the grease stain never went out. Even though the oven was used and used and used, and you expect that over all these months and times the temperature would kind of burn out the grease, but the grease stays there. Okay? You can understand the analogy, it makes a lot of sense. So, as I say, you remember the old ovens which had grease stains. I remember cleaning them for Pesach. You had to work really hard to get the greasy off, and then still was sometimes a stain afterwards. Okay, they didn't have easy off.
Always easy off.
So, and hydrogen's what? It's not sulfuric acid, it's the base.
It's lye.
It's lye, yes, okay. HOH, right? HOH?
You know what?
Okay.
I forget. So they drop.
Alright, so it was a strong base. But I don't know if they had that, and if they didn't have it, they surely didn't want to take it off of their tanurim. So at any rate, the point of it being, the point of it being is that getting malchus was easier and better than being put in the cherem. Cherem had a stigma.
Well, certainly if it's going to stay forever, like it says.
Well, that's what it says. No, that has a stigma. You say a person gets malchus. So malchus is hurt. Malchus is public. We don't give malchus today. So when you read in the paper, right, about certain countries where they're still giving public floggings, it stands out. But the answer is the flogging was given. You read Masechet Makos, they were very careful. The person should be able to tolerate it, and the person healed and went on. But the type of stigma that goes with a person being in a cherem, even though it looked like some of these were a little flippant, stayed with them, and that's what it means. The kind of remembrance, the kind of embers of this remain for a long time. Same way like the techaya ben tanura.
As far as flogging goes, by the way, in this country, when I went to law school, the criminal code had flogging for rape. So we didn't have to go to some other country, and we didn't have to go back many centuries.
But they didn't do it.
But you probably didn't have a case.
Did they do it?
Of course, they didn't do it certainly didn't publicly.
What did they do, like in prison? Like?
Yeah. I don't know how many people were actually sentenced to flogging, but it
was
was in the criminal code. Instead of
you get flogging?
Yeah, it's not real flogging. It's like
the nun.
do it Lubavitch.
Like a nuns or
They do it in Lubavitch if you go there.
Do they do that?
Yeah, there's some guy usually with his gartel.
It's like
this, you know.
Shiites do this. I don't mean to give an example. It's like they would do in monasteries
once
and
a
stuff.
year, right, on the 10th of
Fine,
October.
So they do it also for to
No, you know, there's all kinds. There's a concept that having yisurim, right? You got to pay the piper. So you pay the piper this way, and then Hakadosh Baruch Hu cleans the slate off.
Right.
There were people used to do in Europe sifugim. People roll in the snow.
For the same purpose?
Yeah, same purpose. This was a way to show their suffering to whatever they did wrong that needs to suffer. Let them suffer now.
When something bad used to happen, my mother used to say, this should be a kapora for something.
That's where it comes from, correct?
But I seem to remember in the davening on Kippur, it says, the law Yidei Yisurim.
That's right,
Yeah.
right?
Without
Exactly.
Correct.
Think of some other...
Correct, that's exactly, and that's what put in, because that's how people assume that.
Yeah.
Okay? That's where the origin, by the way, of kaparos. The idea of kaparos was a transference of your sins onto this animal, the chicken, right? Right, zeh kaparasi, zeh chlifosi, zeh tmurasi, zeh kes, zeh zartar ge'el chlamisa, v'ani yekos l'chaim tov maruchim. Okay.
Lakish is back. It's out here.
So
it's even more surprising.
Now Reish Lakish comes back. Okay, good old Reish Lakish. So the first one, what we just said was in the name of Rav. No, not Rav.
Rav.
Right. Maybe Mishmuel. The Rabbi Shmuel said that it's like going to be there like this schmaltz that's in the oven forever. Pliga the Reish Lakish, and it's against Reish Lakish. Rabbi Shmuel were in Bava, Reish Lakish Neritzvot, Reish Lakish, Keshem shenichnas is Masayim v'Arba Shmona Evarim, Kachi Yotza. Yotza is Masayim v'Arba Shmona Evarim. There are 248 limbs. Okay, please don't count them here, right? But they're the same number of mitzvos. Say positive mitzvos, right?
Yeah.
So whenever they are, it goes in with the 240 limbs, and when you remove the cherem, the effect is removed completely. Okay, in other words, there is no blight, there is no after effect. As it says, kishi nichneses d'chsiv v'haisa ha'ir cherem. Okay, this was in Yoshua Perik Vav. I think this was with I don't remember anymore. I think it was I. That the city was going to be Cherem, or maybe it was Yericho, it wasn't going to be built od. So the same with Cherem, but Gematria is Masayim v'Arba Shmona. The word Cherem is 248. For those who think the Gematria is only a Hasidic Rebbe, it's not true. Okay, so Kishiyotze, when it goes out Jechsiv Barogas Rachim Tizkar. So barogas, when you're angry, when there's angry, obviously a person did something wrong. Rachim Tizkar, remember with rachamim, with kindness. Rachim begematria is hachihave. It's also 248.
That's where Brogus comes from. That word. Yeah, Brogus.
Yeah. Yes. Correct. Brogus. All right. So now. Then there's this next story I don't know what to make of. Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef, Shadei Shamta Agnufta the Kalba, the Ihidida Avda. It's like one of these folk sayings that's tied into some kind of story. Put the cherem onto the tail of a dog and it's going to do its job. But you obviously realize it's an aphorism, it rhymes. Shadei Shamta Agnufta the Kalba, the Ihidida Avda. What's the case? Now, who Kalba, this is actually a very funny kind of case, because it's putting cherem on a dog. There was a Hu Kalba, there was a dog they didn't know who it was. They couldn't identify the owner, and it would eat the shoes of the tzurba rabban of the rabbis. Shoes of leather. Leather is edible.
Absolutely.
Okay, leather is edible. It's less edible when it's been processed like our leather, which has been tanned and the dyes are.
They were tanned those days too.
To some extent, but it probably wasn't a stick. Think of sandals. Think of slip-ons.
Yeah. Right.
We had a dog that ate my wife's boots.
Dogs still like chewing on shoes.
This is true. That's correct. Right.
Still do.
Right. So at any rate, this was apparently a nuisance. This was a nuisance, and wild dogs were common. We'll have a koyade manu, and they didn't know whose dog it was, so they couldn't really. And they couldn't find the dog, and they couldn't stop the dog, and they couldn't get the master to take responsibility because they couldn't identify it. So v'shamtulei. So they put the dog into cherem. Okay, there you go. This is one for the dogs.
For him.
So, well, it means, I don't know what it means, put a dog into cherem. I'm not sure, I don't know. Maybe someone was feeding this dog and it kept coming back. So, but it means obviously that they were kind of just at wit's end what to do with the dog. So what else what do rabbis do? What's the power they have? It's not boxing, it's not violence. They pull out the cherem, okay? Secret weapon. So what happens? Itle nura begnufta. So a fire caught on its gnufta, the tail. The tail caught on fire, there's an of vi'achalte, and it got consumed. So I'm not sure exactly what that means, but whatever it was, the power of the cherem, they saw that really that's what put the cherem will even attach to a tail of a dog. This kind of story was saying the same way the Shivcha Rebbe, right? That the cherem is so powerful that even a Shivcha Rebbe can put it and it works. And Chazal were afraid to monkey with it. So even here, even though it's being put on a dog and looks like a gelechter, nonetheless you see the power. The dog was destroyed.
Could be a metaphor for something else. No. I don't mean.
Could be.
No. Like it's
what
not
would
really,
the dog be? A nevid?
I'm asking. I don't know what it is. I'm asking.
I don't know. It
doesn't tell anything about that.
I don't know. It sounds like this is one of these statements that be careful with a cherem. Be careful with a cherem because the most ridiculous cherem has an impact. Right? It's like an EVGB, so it's gonna work.
Is it a cherem by anybody or a cherem by these people? These
were rabbanim, so obviously they had.
So not every cherem can do.
Correct. That's right. So it's got to be a valid, but a valid cherem can even do damage, even if you put it on the tail of a dog. Right. That's the extent of what they're trying to say is a cherem. You got to be careful. Okay. Hahu alma dahava komatzar le'lahu mitzur b'rambanan. There was an Elaim. Elaim is like a strong man, a person who was a bully, or could be like a dictator. Could be like someone who was using force to kind of make trouble against some tzur b'rambanan. Asla kamed Rav Yosef. So he came to Rabbi Yosef. What am I going to do with this guy? This guy is just bothering me. He's not just bothering me. It's probably it's hard. It doesn't tell us who the Elaim is, right? Who this person is. Probably a government official. Maybe someone a Jew who's going to master him to the government. Maybe he's trying to extort someone who's trying to be extorted. So Amalei, so he said. So he goes to Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef said, "Zil Shamte, put him in cherem. Hey, you're a tzur rabbanan. Your cherem will work. You want to get rid of this guy? Put him in a cherem. Excellent." So what does he say back? Amalei mistapina minei. He says, I'm more afraid. Put the guy in cherem. He's going to really beat me to a pulp. Right? You know what? He's not going to be afraid of me, and he's an Elaim. So what am I going to do? Or Mr. Pina means I'm afraid of him. So Amalei shekile pticha Allah. I put it into a jar, right? Write the shamta, write the cherem, and put it into some kind of jar. Okay? I'm sorry. Peticha, put it into. Write it down. Just write it down. Write down the cherem. Don't get up and say the cherem. Write it down. So he said to him, "Kol shekain the mistapina minei." Surely I'm going to be afraid of the guys. Guys, once I write it down, people are going to know that it was written. So Rabbi Yosef said, "Amalei shakle." So write this shamta, write the cherem, v'atche b'chada. Put it into a kad, put it in some kind of jug, right? And v'achte bekavre, and blow into. I'm sorry, v'achte bekavre is to blow into the jug, right? So you're going to write it and put it into the jug, and then blow the shofar into the jug, which means you're going to blow it so it's muffled and muted. V'karabe alpha shipure bi'arba yamin, and then I'm sorry, where you going to blow this? You're going to blow it in the kad at the base of kfaros. It's your muted shofar in the kad, and you're going to blow 1,000 shofar blows into the kad, this muted shofar, in the cemetery on Arboim Yomin on 40 days, for 40 days. So, for 40 days you go...
The jar.
Where did the shofar come in? At first it sounded like you said write it down, as opposed to saying it. And now it sounds like he's saying put it in a cod.
Correct. Put it in a cod.
Put the cod maybe in the basic kvaros.
Take the cod to the basic kvaros, and in the basic kvaros, blow into the cod.
Alfei shipure. That's what the.
Alfei shipure, 1,000 shofar blows. 1,000 tekiyah shofar. Bi'arboin yomin for 40 days. And this way you can get it in. This is the power of 40 days, and the power of the shofar, and the power of the right ksav for the shamto, and no one will hear it. Or at least this Elam will know about it, because you're in the basic forest. The basic forest is not about demons and ghosts. It's deserted. So no one will hear it, and the Elam will not know about it. The strong-armed guy won't know about it. And sure enough, what did he do? Okay. So Ovid Hachi, he did this, and sure enough, what happened on the 40th day with the 1,000 shofar blows, Paka Kada Umis. So the jug cracked apart, and sure enough, at that moment, what happened? The guy dies. Boom. Okay. So okay. Was it chance? Was it happenstance?
They got these hexes on them.
Well, you see a couple of things. You see, but most importantly, that the cherem can work even if it's written down.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. By the way, for those who
and even if the guy doesn't know, but he's in cherem, right? I mean,
right.
By definition.
We use the term colloquially Chem Rabbeinu Gershon.
We do, yeah.
Right. Chem Rabbeinu Gershon is. Or a lot of cherems. One is about polygamy, one is about letters and it's privacy.
What's the one about
There's
letters?
a third one.
You can't open someone else's mail.
Yeah.
There's a third one. There's a third thing?
Or maybe.
There's a third
Okay.
thing. Don't remember.
Divorce, the power
That's what he said.
You can't divorce Baal Korcho. You can't divorce a woman Baal Korcho.
You need a divorce.
About maybe putting into
No,
a
you need 100
chaser.
signatures. 100 signatures thing.
Maybe he's the guy.
I don't remember. Anyways, whatever it is, but the Chen Rabbeinu Gershon that you always hear is usually about, the opening mail. It's Chen Rabbeinu Gershon, not marrying more than one wife. So that what Rabbeinu Gershon was saying is, the person who does this, right? What's going to happen to him? It's going to put in cherem. That's why it's called cherem. It's not Takanas Rabbeinu Gershon. It's a cherem, right? So yeah. And of course, there were no federal laws about opening mail in those days, okay? And so you had to rely upon people who were carrying letters for you.
Used to write the letters back. Used to have a code. They would put the, like an olive for
I don't know.
For tough.
Certainly people
And
use
there's photography
photography for
it.
sure,
I
but...
forget what it's called.
They used to seal the envelope and write on the seal, Pei Gimel Yud Shin. Poretz Geder Yishachenu Nachash.
Yeah.
Person breaks, if there's a pasuk in Mishlei, a person breaks the fence, the snake will bite him.
Right.
There's a whole machlokas. If a person didn't write that, does that mean that he doesn't really care and a Chem Rabbeinu Gershon doesn't really apply to him? That was the sign. That was like, they had to put those letters on. That was the sign that says, I'm subscribing to the Chem Rabbeinu Gershon. And if you open it, you are breaking your Poretz Geder, right, and you should meet an ignoble end.
You have the address of you.
Right. Anyways, I think the pasuk that even applies if you don't write it.
Let's think here. So the guy dies.
Yeah.
So is that good or bad?
Well, when the Gemara identifies someone as an Elam, they're saying he was a bad guy.
Okay, so we have a besting, right? So did they sentence him to death?
No, they did not.
No,
That's
so-
exactly
so-
the point.
so-
They didn't have the power.
They didn't have the power?
In an imperfect world where people can bully others, and it's not that black and white, or it's not prosecutable, or this person may have been.
So who decided to kill this guy?
No,
If you can't prosecute the guy, you can't prove nothing. Why
if you look in the Middle Ages, where the Jews did not have the power to punish and flog and kill, you find that when they were dealing with Mosrim, they managed to find the ability to get rid of these people.
So
who gave them the power? The answer was that's how society ran.
So who gives this guy power to do this guy?
So
the
Rabbi Yosef gave the power. Now the assumption, by the way, on this is that once again a cherem, it's a very funny kind of cherem. I told you it's written, it's not said. That it must have had validity what he said. In other words, the end of the story shows that the beginning of the story is correct, because obviously for this to happen, it means there had to be some divine intervention.
Exactly. God agreed that he's...
God agreed, and they're correct. Now, why did God have to wait for this guy to do it for 40 days in the cemetery with the cod and the shofars? Why couldn't God just say yes or no? I don't know. That's a question. Okay. Let's, you know what?
Is it 1,000 blasts on each of 40 days.
That's how I understood it.
Huh?
That's how I understood it. 1,000 blasts in each 40 days.
Yeah.
Not 1,000 households.
But
No,
Rav
but I
Steinsaltz
It's a lot of blasts.
on that just says, Bo'elef, Kolomar, Harbe. So he's saying,
not 1,000 many.
How many is many? A significant number, correct. Remember, on Rosh Hashanah we only do 100.
100, right.
So that's like, well, it's like 10
1,000
days.
the whole day.
Again, this Baltakia probably blows 1,000 when he's practicing.
Yeah.
A good Baltakia when he's practicing before. Not on Rosh Hashanah.
Each part could be one. Doesn't we count?
That's correct.
We count 3 as one.
We count.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Kia through Shvorm, whatever. We count it as one. That was Kia's one.
When we say
Shvorm is one.
when we say 100, like
okay.
Shvorm,
Shvorm is one. Kia is one, and True is whatever.
We count True as one. Tekiah is one, True is one, and Tekiah is one, and Shorm is one.
Right. But there's going to be 3 or 9, depending. Is 3 blows in it?
Okay, it means a lot. Okay, so all right. So therefore, so the Gemara says, "My shipure." Umesa, so the Elam died, the strong guy dies, the bully dies. So my shipure. So what's the purpose of shofar? I mean, the Gemara has trouble. What's the shofar all about? Well, who cares? Like, what does it do? So the Gemara says the word shofar has in it. It's like a notricon shen nefroimi menu. Shofar is a power to cause something to happen to pay back. Okay. Right. Sheneframi menu. My tavra. Okay. I'm reading the next line.
Yeah, where did Tavra come in?
So Tavra. Tavra is Aramaic for shavar, from shever, from shvarim.
The cab that broke, huh?
No,
it says broke. The Kadra? No, what does it say?
Tavar means to break, but the way Rashi explains it, it means like shvarim. Tavar, the tough and shin flip in Aramaic.
Right, yeah.
Okay? A very common term in the Gemara is Tavra. Break it apart. Tavra mishashanazu lo shanazu. In other words, sometimes it's a statement in the Gemara that when there's a memra, and then 2 memras back to back, and they can't understand how to reconcile. Sometimes the Gemara says Tavra, break it apart. Mishashanazu. What whoever said this one didn't say the other one. You tried it. Right, shaver, l'shborotam. So I'm just trying to think. You'll come up with examples, and when you go back to your Aramaic, like you can Shnei. Correct. There we go. Trey is Shnei. Thank you. Okay. So Tavra is from Shever. So in this case, it's the Shavarim that were being blown. Remember, Shvarm and Trua can mean the same thing, right? And so why did he have to blow Shavarim? Why did he blow Tekiah Shavarim in this case? So the Gemara says, "My Tavra, Rav Yitzchak Braid Rav Yehuda, Tavar Beis Rami." Okay, that the house of the I guess either Roman houses or the high houses from Ram and Mestase should be broken down by the blowing of the shofar, which is what happened. This guy was in Elam, probably lived in a big house. Those the people on a high level should be broken down. The Tanya, Rav Shimon Lakish. I'm sorry, Amar Shimon Glila, thank you. Kamakam Shnasnu Chachamim Mimnehem O Misa Oni. So wherever the Chazal, there's a very strong term, kind of put their eyes and put their koach. So the punishment happened, either the person died or the person was reduced to penniless, to being very poor. Okay.
Did this against going to?
I don't know. It doesn't say. It just says. In other words, if it's a real Talmud Chacham, then ability is there. This guy brings us to the end of Nidui and Shamta and everything.